Hey everyone, welcome to Ink Scribes, the comics podcast where we discuss the art and craft of comics. I'm Colin Singh, an aspiring artist and lifelong student of the craft, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Eric Zawadzki and Taylor Stauft. But before we get into today's episode, joining us is a special guest. He's Australian-based comics artist Louie Joyce. Joyce has illustrated such tales as Astral and Fistful of Pain, which is my personal favorite. And most recently, Joyce both wrote and illustrated the Godzilla series Skate or Die from IDW. This book is wild as hell too, man. The trade paperback will be released later this month, and the pre-order link is in the description below. So Louie, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've been enjoying a whole bunch of episodes of the show. Really love what you guys are doing and the discussion that you're having, and I'm super excited to be a part of it generally. But on a Chris Bachalo episode, I'm hyped.
I specifically wanted to bring you on because of all the amazing Generation X art that I've seen you do.
Thank you.
And I just want to scroll through this. I managed to find a bunch of stuff, but yeah, this stuff is just gorgeous.
I do love those X kids.
The Cyclops Havoc one you just did recently, that's my personal favorite, actually.
Thank you.
Do you have that up there?
No.
Just you did a couple weeks ago. You did a couple weeks ago, right? Yeah, last month.
Yeah, it's two older drawings of the characters that I did, but I put them together recently and reposted. And because I just, especially, cool. Was it last year or the year before last? I was just drawing heaps of character X-Men illustrations just as a warm-up thing often. And so I ended up doing over 100 of them. And they're fun to just mix and match sometimes.
Yeah, so similarly to Chris Bachalo, I think that you're such a unique voice in comics. And I mean, that's why I think you're just such a perfect fit for this particular episode. When Bachalo came out on the scene, it was the early 90s comic scene, and everybody was trying to do an impression of Jim Lee. Everybody's zigging, and Bachalo was zagging.
Yeah, I think that's something I loved about his work that really drew me to his work early on. Because, he's such a fascinating artist, and such an artist that evolves and changes, and there's always something new or different in his different eras of his kind of creative career. He's a really fascinating artist, and that's why I still now look back on his work at all those different stages, and I always find something of value in it. Even some of the stuff that maybe gets a bit, and you guys haven't reached it there, but that really, really intense, stylized, bubbly 90s stuff that comes after what we're discussing today. I find stuff in that I really love, and I know a lot of people bounce off that, but there's always something there in his work.
Yeah, so me and Colin are 1983 babies, so we were 11 years old when Generation X came out. This was, I guess every generation gets their new X-Men characters to jump on into, and something that they can take ownership of, and that was us. Generation X were our characters. We were there on the ground floor. Taylor, I understand you hadn't read any of this stuff before.
No, it was all through other people talking about it. Because I know Bachalo, mostly through post 2000s Spider-Man work.
Right. And Louie, how did you come about? How did you discover Generation X?
Yeah, so I'm 87 born, so I was I was 7 at the time Gen X started coming out, and I don't my memory is terrible, but I wasn't buying it off the shelf at the time, and I think so my journey into X-Men is all wrapped up in that the craziness of the 90s, the cartoon show, trading cards, and playing the arcade game, and X-Men vs Street Fighter up at the local time zone during happy hour, and just sinking as many coins into that as I could. So all of that is my earliest memories of X-Men. And Jubilee, especially with the cartoon, Jubilee was a character that I kind of glommed onto straight away. I just thought she was awesome and funny and just a really fun character. So when I came across the Gen X books, I just was like, oh, Jubilee's in it. That's going to be my book. I'm going to check it out. I loved it. And then it just became the one that I was just the most excited about whenever it came to reading X-Men. And I fell really headfirst into X-Men comics at that time. But Gen X was the one that I remember just being so taken by and so absorbed into, so much due to, I think, Chris Bachalo's art, because it just is so captivating.
Hell yeah.
Cool. So,
yeah, the chromium cover for number 1 was that was like my crown jewel. Like this cover,
Yeah.
we pulled out the flops.
We've all got it.
Yeah. Did you actually, Louie? Did you pick up on the homage to X-Men number 1 for this wrap?
No, for years I didn't even get that it was an homage. You know, I was just so taken by the shininess of it and the thing. But now I love it. Like, I just think it's a genius cover, and it like remixes that and that's an image that has been remixed so many times, but it remixes it in a really well done way. I think that feels new and fresh and completely different to, like, I think a lot of what you would have seen in the X-Men up until that point. And just like blasts away. Like, how can you look at that and not just be like, I got to read that. I got to read that comic,
especially with the chromium.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys at the beginning of this, because this is all new to me. When you saw these, was this the state of mutants at the time? Because my memory is that, like, all the X-Men were good-looking, regular-looking people, but this is like one guy's face is exploded, one woman is shedding everything, and one guy just has, I don't know, he's like constantly melting just from this cover alone.
I mean, that was the appeal of Generation X, was that they were really embracing the freak aspect of the X-Men. Yeah. Whereas the X-Men were all the supermodels, it felt like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they went full body horror with it. It was not glamorous. It wasn't Rogue and Storm and Cyclops in swimwear. It was like, it was like far out.
Yeah, like their lives are demonstrably worse.
Yeah. Which I think is really cool.
I mean, Monet.
Wow.
Monet was the Tank, and I think Cinch and Jubilee, like the normal looking characters, even on this cover, they're like at the back, and all the freaks are up front. You know, it was definitely a change from the original book.
So I think the first issue that we all read was Generation X #1, but like a couple of years ago, I discovered that there was a San Diego Comic-Con preview book that came out before #1 that I had never read. And because I had read Generation X like so many times as a kid, and I thought I had read everything, discovering this San Diego Comic-Con preview book kind of blew my mind. It was Chris Bachalo starting out with the characters and sort of like transitioning from his Vertigo days into mainstream superhero work. Had you guys read this stuff beforehand?
No.
You're talking about the Ashcan book, right? Like it was just a tiny little...
No, this is the Ashcan book, and it just has like sketches and stuff in it. But there was a San Diego preview book with an actual story. Louie, you had this comic, right?
I have it, but I didn't track it down till years later. So I definitely hadn't read it at the time. I've got a few versions of it. Like I've got like this. There's this one which also reprints it. That one has it in it. And then there's also this like X-Men Rarities one, which has like it and in the back, and like also a few other amazing stories in it. But yeah, it's around. It just was never. It was never easily. Gen X is criminally undercollected until now. I think like recent years that it's actually getting collected. So it was never in anything to find. So yeah, I learned about it through Google years later and had to track it down. But it's such a great story. Like I don't know why it wasn't included with the first issue in some way, just in that chromium. I mean, they obviously, but it would have worked really well if they just like put it in the back of this or something. It's a great story.
Yeah, so they put it in volume 2 of the Epic collection. This is volume 1, but because although it's the first story that Bachalo and Lobdell did, it takes place between like issue 14 or 15 or something.
Because Mondo's there.
Yeah, so Mondo's there, and there's a reference to the dorm exploding, which happens in like
issue 4 or something,
kind of at the end of issue 6. And so it's just interesting to see, because this I see is Chris Bachalo like transitioning from I think he worked on Shade number 50 and then went straight into this. And
interesting.
Some of these characters, it feels like he's like slowly figuring them out. Like this is basically the world's introduction to Chamber, and such an interesting visual right off the bat. And and then we get like this weird Mondo powers. Like this is really embracing the, as we said earlier, the freak aspect and the just the crazy powers, because it feels like in the 90s every second New Mutant that was introduced had like laser blasting powers or something.
Yeah, very ill-defined psionic abilities.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just like, Mondo absorbs the volleyball and then I guess like it shoots it out as these blobs, like just very strange.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This actually feels like, there's a later character that he was involved in creating called Gold Balls in the X-Men.
Right.
So this actually, to me, ever since I've seen it, feels like a proto, like just this panel, a proto Gold Balls. Like you could take that and it could be from one of those comics. Like I think he came back to this idea from balls bursting out of someone.
Something I find interesting is this story has Jubilee drawing the characters and adding a note. And Louie, I think you did something similar in your Godzilla Skate or Die.
Yeah, I did. I had, because there's like the kids make zines in that book. They have this skate park and they make zines and stuff about it. So I do have little excerpts presented in a pretty similar way to this, with little like character sketches and things. I must have gotten the idea from here. It's a really nice technique, I think. Works really effectively here. And they go back to it in a later Gen X episode by Chris Bachalo as well. So, I love it.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that it makes it feel like, this is a book by or involving the youth.
Yeah.
So this is interesting because this is our first introduction to Penance, I guess, like, because this came out this summer before. So Generation X #1 came out in September. And so this preview book came out in the summer before, like a couple of months before. And I don't know, this feels like either they hadn't figured Penance out yet, or this is just supposed to be a big tease, because like it looks like these aren't like claws.
Well, I can also kind of see.
You were saying though, Eric, that it takes place between 14 and 15?
Yeah. There's a reference.
So this is like.
Yeah, there's a reference here. About a week ago, the girls' dorm sort of it blew up, which happens, I think, on the last page of issue 6. And in the Epic collection, it takes place in the appropriate order.
Wow, that's way more planning than I gave 90s comics.
I don't think they planned it. I think they were just had very rough ideas about where and how things are doing. But the general vibe of Gen X is very, very sporadic or spontaneous. I think they get an idea, and a lot of it is driven by Chris's art. I think, and Scott is just reacting to stuff that he does there.
I think that's the general Scott Lobdell approach to writing comics.
Because there's a lot of plot points and things that are kind of teased but never go anywhere. And if you read like one of those early interviews with Scott, with ideas that he had about the book, it completely veers away from that and goes in all these different directions. But I think actually that makes for a really interesting and different energy within the book itself, as opposed to what that Chris Claremont days of long overarching plots wasn't that far behind this. And so I think it actually provides this really great energy to it. And just on this
definitely
page,
influenced by the Claremont writing.
Yeah, this page here, with the I always read that not as a visual for Penance, but a Penance POV of Jubilee standing at the window.
Oh, you're right.
So
Yeah,
if
no,
you
I
see,
misread that.
the kind of finger. So I think it is more reflective of Penance's emotional state in that moment.
How she views them as monsters.
Yeah, as opposed to like visualizing Penance herself.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense.
I don't know if that's what it is, but yeah.
That's the better theory, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I look at the scratchiness of this inks, and, maybe it was Mark Buckingham. But, I always look at this stuff and I wonder, like, how much Chris Bachalo was he inking on the page some of these sequences, especially when you get like this is something we covered a lot in the Shade the Changing Man episode, but like these trees look like that maybe Bachalo had a hand in this.
You know what, Eric? I think Buckingham is extremely versatile, so I'll give it a benefit of the doubt that it's all Buckingham.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great artist.
I've seen him do some crazy stuff. Yeah. So he's a full-on painter too. So
the question is like, how much is he? How much control does he want before he hands it over to a collaborator? Because nowadays he still doesn't ink his own work, but he colors all his work.
Right.
But here we have like going more into the freak aspect is like, and playing into the relatability of them as youth. Jubilee has a roommate here who is leaving her skin lying all around, and it's just the grossness of having to live with another person and deal with all that body horror stuff, I guess.
Oof. Yeah.
But so that was an interesting introduction, and basically it ends coming in September 1994. But yeah, here we have Generation X #1. What's interesting here is how it's, it was originally colored with the chromium in mind, but if you look at the back here, you can see that like there was an alternate coloring where there was like I don't know, a lot more gradients and like crazy lighting effects here. But I guess with the Epic collection, they wanted to lean into that like silver chromium type effect. Actually, before that, did you guys have this Generation X collector's preview?
Yeah.
Got it right here.
So yeah, that was collected in the Epic collection. But yeah, I picked this up off the newsstand, and it's just served as a way of promoting. Like Marvel pulled out all the stops with promoting this book.
Yeah, it was a big book.
Yeah, and so, but this is the highlight for me, is like where they talk about the genesis of the design behind Chamber. Yeah. Can we agree that like Chamber is the standout character of the book?
Oh yeah. He's got such
a
cool look, and
skin would be second.
Well, you think so?
Visually, yeah.
Skin
he's super distinctive.
Feels like most of these characters have disappeared in recent years, and now like the main survivors Chamber.
Yeah, they didn't get any sub series in the Krakoa era or anything, did they?
Well, they did a bit. So it's certainly after Gen X ended with issue 75, they all kind of disappeared a lot and all got kind of wrapped up. I think Chamber was the only one. He had like a 4-issue miniseries written by Brian K. Vaughan. I can't remember the name of the artist who drew it, but it's a solid little miniseries. It's like super early Vaughan work, and so he had a solo, and then for years they were just not around. They were off to the sides or getting killed off or whatever. But in recent years, actually, the most popular characters are M Monet.
Right.
She was in Peter David's X Factor, and then she had a big glow up during Krakoa. Like she was on a bunch of teams, and Cinch as well.
Cinch,
I always said Cinch as a kid, and I can't stop myself sometimes.
I was going to say
it's Sink.
It's
right?
Sink.
It's Sink, but it's a thing.
With powers,
It's a thing that I did as a kid. I just read it as Cinch. and I just
I think I did too.
Burnt into my brain.
Me too.
Sync had a really good kind of showing during Krakoa as well. So there was a few. They all kind of came back a bit in Krakoa, but they've never had this kind of team reunion thing that a lot of other teams have had. Although there was a great Gen X book like 5-6 years ago.
Written by Christina Strain, was it?
Yes, yeah. And
I think there was a lot of anger because it used the title, but not the characters.
Yeah, it does. It kind of brings them back. It does end up being like a really great Gen X tribute book, but it does introduce a whole nother group of characters as well, which is like what the youth books are supposed to do. You can't just keep doing the same New Mutants over and over and over again. I think.
No, you're right.
I think Generation should have their group of young X-Men characters.
Yeah, have absolutely. Them be old and grizzled now.
Yeah. But Chamber definitely, at the time that Gen X was coming out, it was the popular character. He was the one that like looked to be destined for the X-Men and for bigger and better things, and which is so funny because as a character, he's the one that is just like, I could not care less about any of this. I don't want any trouble. I just want to like listen to records. He's on the leave me alone.
Yeah. He's on the Weapon X-Men team right now too.
Yeah,
Weapon X-Men.
Oh, okay. I saw that.
Wolverine and
yeah. Joe Casey actually
really nice cover by Alex Ross too.
Yeah,
he did a good job.
Chamber drawn by Alex Ross. I never thought we'd see that.
Oh, I need to check that out.
Yeah, that's right.
So oftentimes in Big Two comics, the writer pitches a comic and then the artist is hired afterwards. The artist basically comes in and like executes the writer's vision. I think one of the keys to Generation X's success, as opposed to I think a lot of those examples of like a new generation of young X-Men, I think one of the keys to the success is that Lobdell and Bachalo worked very closely together to create these characters. And yeah, I think it's one of the most distinct out of all these young generations. And like this is an example where like they were at a San Diego con probably like the year prior, so probably 1993, and they just discussed what are these characters going to look like. And this on the left is like a loose sketch of like the idea that Lobdell presented to Bachalo, and then it eventually turned to this.
Wow.
I love the idea of a writer just this, and then Chris Bachalo being like, I'll take it from here, bud.
Yeah, and so I think it's just great. Like there's an ownership that Bachalo takes to these characters. Like this was not just like executing the writer's vision. This was a collaboration through and through. And that's why like it always feels a little wrong to me when another artist draws Generation X, because I mean it's kind of like if somebody else drew Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
But yeah, so I'm 11 years old in 1994. This is the beginning of the school year, and this comes out, and it's it's a very cool comic. And also, like, speaking of Bachalo taking ownership of this, like I think he took ownership of even Jubilee a little bit. Like he drew her with different hair than we had seen previously. And yeah, that's just basically him exerting some creative control over this.
This is actually one of my favorite Jubilee drawings ever.
Yeah, I love those slippers
with her dinosaur. Yeah, the dinosaur slippers.
This is something I'm gonna hit on and get pretty repetitive about, but like, I think Chris Bachalo is having more fun than anybody else in comics at this time.
Yeah,
and like these slippers are a prime example of that. But like every other panel has something crazy and fun hidden in the background there, and he's just having so much fun.
Yeah.
So what's great is that this is kind of the perfect first X-Men comic, because like we're introduced to a big cast of characters and everybody gets their big moment, like almost a full page shot. Like every one of these characters. This is how M is introduced. This is how the Banshee is introduced. And yeah, it's just great. And all throughout the comic, a character shows up and we get this big, bold image.
This Banshee illustration threw me off when I first saw it. I was like, did he get leave from the Enterprise to come down and teach his children? What's happening?
Look very Star Trek.
Yeah.
I remember there was a Wizard magazine where they do like a casting call, and they had a Star Trek actor cast as him.
The only Irishman in space, Colm Meaney, I would bet.
Yes. Yeah, you nailed it. So yeah, it's interesting. Maybe that was that subtle inspiration. Who knows?
But yeah, you're right. You got to they hit the ground running with, here are all the kids. Let's go.
Yeah, and you get like a lot of like great acting going on here. Like this right here is an introduction to M, Monet, and she's the snobby character, and so she's like pulling these gloves off and has a very
doing it like one at a time, like an old lady, like an old rich lady.
Yes, yeah. And then these two, who Jubilee and Paige, who had been squabbling like the panel before, are now like giggling, making fun of the snobby girl. So very very well done, like character dynamics going on, and a lot of this is setting up soap opera elements. People who like each other but also don't like each other, and setting up like frenemies and all that. I love this. Like the Simpsons were at the peak of pop culture, and so
they sure are. Yeah,
you have this dope. Actually, I wanted to try something a little bit different with this. Actually, now that I think about it, I managed to track down so much of the original art of this first issue. Like, it's shocking how much was online. So it would be fun to read the comic this way. There's also a lot of Steve Bachalo color guides out there as well.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, I like the color guides better than the finished piece.
Yeah. I remember I was going through the original art that you sent me. So yeah, I thought the same thing.
Although this looks like it's been faded a little bit, but actually I'm not sure. It's hard to tell.
But
the first issue is quite restrained in its coloring in a really nice way, as opposed to like, I was trying to work out if it's is it digital coloring, or was it like, there's a very clear moment in Gen X, or it's very clear that the 90s digital coloring comes in and really explodes in a not great way in the Gen X books, whereas the first 4 issues, and even the first issue to like the second or third issue, there's like a clear change in the way that it's colored and gradients use and all of that stuff. And then you go to like issues 15, 16 or whatever, and there's like full digital rendering and like weird bubbles and clouds. Like I did notice somewhere, like, because it feels quite, nicely restrained. It's mostly solid, very little rendering.
I agree.
It works really nicely in these early issues, but you do see little elements like digital clouds being painted into a background in issue 3 or 4 or something like that, I think. And then it hits the book in a really big way. But I wasn't sure where it sat in that moment of digital coloring.
Well, it's the first issue is the first issue is definitely colored digitally.
Yeah,
especially because you get like the sync powers and stuff. But but you're right. Yeah, like I guess the computing power wasn't quite there, so they had to be subtle. And then as computing power got better, things got a little too crazy. Just because you can do everything doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. And the color guides by Buccellato here are like, you can see everything that the book does is just closely matched to that. And I think that process, right, of doing traditional color guides really works in the book's favor here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, like I mean, for instance, here, like you get a lot of like nice watercolor texture going on here, and then but when you go to the actual comic here, let's
get all.
Yeah, it's more of a gradient.
Yeah,
It's more of a gradient, and
Yeah.
less the texture and more gradient. And then you got an airbrushy kind of like a cloud formation here.
yeah,
I love how one eye has this like crazy effect
Explosion.
on M plate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice little contrast between the eyes, and it just such a cool character design.
Yeah. Had Endplate been a villain previous through? Because I know these guys are introduced in some X-Men book before. Or is this just like this is his first appearance?
It is his first appearance. It is, and
this would be.
I think there's something about him being mentioned in the Days of Future Past time. I've never really looked into all
really?
that. There's some mention of him. I don't know if it comes after this or before this, but like M plates as a plural in that time that I think is related to this character. So I don't know if that's where they took a throwaway name and did something like that, or I don't know. I have to look into that one. But this was definitely his first appearance.
That's really the beauty of doing corporate comics, I would assume, is like you can just reach back to what was never followed up on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'll mention a big thing like when we get to issue 4 that they follow up on from the Claremont run. But like a clear X-Men thing is to create plot lines and set up future stories, and like a lot of that was just like, oh, so and so knows this major character, what could that mean? And so Gateway was a character in the Claremont run who was barely established. Like his character background was barely established, and so here you have him showing up, and you have M somehow knows him, and I think refers to him as a mentor. And so that's a very X-Men thing to set up these mysteries.
Yeah. Where did she come from? Why are they connected? Read for more.
Yeah, and so here we have this like crazy cool Xerox effect that Bachalo around this time was known for, where it clearly looks like he drew this and then like messed around with it in a Xerox machine and then like pasted it down. And it just gives a cool effect. He's on a different plane of existence.
Yeah, it's a really good use of story versus and art.
Do you guys notice this character here?
That's the man himself, no?
Yeah, that looks like
is that him?
Bachalo. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's giving this fun little swirly hair, which at the end of the issue you'll see that Chamber has this swirly hair as well. So.
The faces, the background faces of these crowd shots is great. Like that grumpy looking little kid, and there's that woman in a suit, and then her mini-me in a suit.
Wait, what?
On the right-hand page, middle panel.
Oh, yeah. Actually, this kind of looks like a character Chris Bachalo would do in Witching Hour, but I guess a male version maybe. But yeah, I don't know.
The rockabilly guy. Yeah, just so fun.
Yeah, I love a Chris Bachalo crowd scene. It's always like... I think about most of my favorite artists, and it's always they do great crowd scenes. You know, there's always you can just get lost in looking at those panels for ages.
So this is a very digital effect, and if we go back to the color guides, I actually like this better. I like what Butchelato did here more. I don't know.
Yeah, me too.
But I guess I just like the traditional effects. The traditional look a little better, but like back in 1994, this was cutting edge. This is like nobody had seen this before, so this was mind blowing. Whereas like the stuff that I like was sort of like, been there, done that.
It does make Chamber pop as a character, though, too, right? Like it's suddenly associated with that.
Yeah, and part of that is like how M Plate sees him. I guess M Plate sees him as like food, like.
Right.
Like the Predator.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Oh yeah, I hadn't made that connection. Yeah, I like how he designs a page where he has these groups of panels that have these thick borders, and then he has like a thin border here, and then another group. Like panels are segmented in these sections, and I don't know, it's just very visually appealing to me.
Yeah, and clear, right? Like here's what you should be thinking about. Next line. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't I don't think anybody had drawn Banshee's powers like this before.
I really do like how he draws, Banshee's powers throughout. It's great.
Kind of like Havoc's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like it's an alternate version of what Neil Adams created with Havoc's powers. Yeah,
okay.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, but it also feels much more directed, which I really appreciate. Like it's a sonic weapon.
Yeah. Now, something great about this is they all look like teenagers, which I think like most artists you would hire around this time, like all this clothes and everything that he puts the characters in. A lot of the artists you would hire at this time didn't have the capabilities to draw teenagers, I think. And so he was, it was just such a good idea to get a Vertigo artist on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, this is also the 90s when like, every artist is sexualizing all the characters.
Yeah, so, Rob Liefeld drawing teenagers is uncomfortable now.
Yeah.
There's actually a kind of a direct reference to that in this issue somewhere, if I remember, because the characters, a few of the characters were introduced in the Phalanx Covenant crossover that happened before this. Sink being one of them, and I think he's drawn by Andy Kubert, one of the Kuberts in those issues. And he's just like, he's so buff and big in all of those issues. And they do mention somewhere in here, in this issue, I remember, there's a line about, retaining his increased bulk the time he was around Sabretooth.
Oh.
And I don't think that is like a thing that was actually happening in the issues. I think that he was just drawn so buff and big in that. And then in this, he suddenly actually looks like a teenager. That they just they took a moment to kind of address it, because he's not a teenager at all in those issues.
Yeah, he's like a basketball player.
Yeah, he's huge, as they all are.
It's one of those like they don't really if you go to art school, all you get is all you should be getting really is like adult models, which have specific proportions. Like you'd have to seek out how to draw. Like, how tall is a teen? Well, they're more like 4.5 to 5 heads tall rather than 6 to 6.5.
The proportions are all gangly and weird.
Yeah, but he also draws them in like oversized clothes. That was like, that's exactly what we all looked like in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think Joe Madureira was a little bit better at it.
Yeah.
Like you can buy that he's a teenager here.
With a neck as
maybe not. Yeah,
just a touch better.
Yeah, but like to go to your point, like definitely looks like a teenager here.
Yeah, like hands too big for his body, ears all out of whack.
And that's another thing, is he also kind of desexualized the White Queen as well. Like this is a teacher for kids, and like she was like always dressed in lingerie whenever any other artist was drawing.
Yeah, the all white dominatrix outfit, which is strange too, because there is a line in this book where Monet says like, I don't like how you dress. I don't like, she's listing off things, and one of them is, I don't like how you dress. And I was like, this is pretty tame for the White Queen. I don't know.
Well, for the White Queen, but she's still wearing a corset, so that's a thing that you can appreciate.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, and holding a whip.
He did. Yeah, exactly. So he desexualized her, but still kept her in character, which is a fine line to walk.
Yeah.
And how spectacular is this introduction?
The chamber reveal of like, what does his full form look like?
And you got these cool Bachalo swirls, which is a Bachaloism, I think.
Oh, coming off like the blue?
Just like swirls here, swirls in the background here, just like swirls everywhere. It was like all over.
That's like his own Kirby Crackle.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Except I don't think he does it anymore. It's
that's too bad.
He does little skulls and stuff now around.
I think he might do it in Doctor Strange, but don't hold me to it. But when he was on Doctor Strange with Jason Aaron, he did some cool stuff.
I've seen it in commission sketches. He does as well. Like he brings it back every now and again, but he definitely utilizes it a lot in these days, and really nicely. like just as a flourish.
Yeah, it's just so visually cool. And here we have the big team moment. We get a double page spread of the team united.
It's like when the X-Men showed up and told the military, "Don't worry, we'll handle Magneto. You guys can." And they're like, "Oh, okay. I hope you know what you're doing, son."
Yeah, and obviously like a mix of the Xerox effect and then a gradient to show him disappearing. So definitely Bachalo leaning into the more modern stuff now that he's on a big Marvel superhero book. Has this maintained in Chambers' character design, the cracks all over his face?
Man, I hope so.
It does.
Not really.
It comes and goes. Like it depends on
bit,
who's drawing him.
I don't think Chris Cross is drawing Weapon X-Men. I got it right over there, but I'd have to.
Terry Dodson takes over the book for a while, and it's not as crackly. I always was fascinated by the color change in his stuff as well, which never gets referenced or explained in any way. And here, clearly, it's to place him outside the room because the room already has a warm orange yellow tone to it, right? So they need to place him outside in that outside area. But it changes, like in the very first page that when he's on the plane, it's blue, but then it's yellow, and then it's all this. And as far as I know, it's never been explained or referenced. But I love the idea that it would change based on his emotional, state of mind or something like that.
Yeah, I read it as like
a mood ring.
he's burning either bright or burning hot, one of the two, and he can kind of toggle between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I like that. I hadn't thought of that at all. So yeah, this is it's a good way to introduce a new X-Men team. You have like a big battle, and then everybody else ends up back at the same status quo, and then you have a big cliffhanger.
Dun, dun,
as this
dun.
New character has been dropped off, and a character who has never spoken before. I think this very panel basically says penance, or slowly says the word, and so a lot of introducing intrigue and drama into a show so that all those young kids will want to keep buying it, which it definitely had me doing that.
It's a great cliffhanger. Like what's going on, and who is this? What does penance mean?
Do you guys think that Bachalo had a hand in the lettering, because it was pretty unique to the Generation X book, right? The other X books had their own font that they used. I think that this kind of, what would I call it? Like a chipped, kind of angular chipped font. Like every letter has a little like chip taken out of it.
It's a good question.
For specific characters, you mean, or like because everybody has
just over like for the design of the book, like even the to be continued. It's like
like
that font,
the title design. I think who did that? There's someone has.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that actually. I was going to comment on that with issue 5, which I can't hear. It's I've seen some people say that like the 90s were the comic craft era of comics, just because like of how
I'll say
like there's on this one page alone from issue 5, there's like 5 or 6 fonts just on this, which is understandable for like a title page, but that's a lot of fonts for one page. And it's just very present, all the different amounts of fonts that every character gets. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of visual information coming at a new reader.
Yeah, and like it feels like almost every character got their very own font. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot. And I think we've, I think the industry has stepped back a little bit from that.
I would like to think that as a creator, Bachalo had a hand in it, but I wonder, just because of the production nature of comics, especially at this time when they are just cranking books out, that it's like, no, Chris doesn't have time for that. Like, Comics Craft, Steve Bachalo or
No, it's Richard
Starkings is going to take care of that, and inspired by the art of Bachalo, but not necessarily communicating, because they also don't have email, or it's not widely available at this time.
Yeah. And from my understanding of how the industry works today, which probably isn't too different from back then, the editors are just so overworked and there's just no time to loop everybody in on every decision. The editors just have to make command decisions because that book has to get out.
Yeah.
You hire people whose decisions you trust and just...
Yeah, and there's just a lot of situations where like the artist wasn't told this or the writer wasn't told that. And it's just like, well, there probably wasn't enough time. It had to go to the printer like ASAP.
Yeah. Todd Klein designed the logo for Generation X, so the masthead, the main thing. And he's got up on his blog a little rundown of iterations, some of the design and process that went into it.
Really cool.
So he did that main kind of weird Generation X font, and then I think they adapt that into various usages throughout the history of the book.
Yeah, just click there.
I should also say that there's a school of thought with lettering that good lettering should be invisible. And I can see the arguments why, but I don't necessarily fully agree with that. And I think there's maybe a happy middle ground to it. I'm working with Hassan Otsmain Elhau on Assorted Crisis events, and in my mind, he's like the best in the business at the moment.
Yeah,
and I don't think he subscribes to that unsaid rule about how invisible lettering should be. I think he does follow that middle ground, because Haas's lettering is always fun and lively, and it's just such an important aspect of how you experience certain moments in Assorted Crisis events. But yeah, I do think that this lettering is a little too loud. It's calling attention to itself a little too much.
Assorted Crisis events on sale now at your local retailer.
Taylor, you're always a great hype man for me. But yeah, let's jump into issue 2. And now it's
weirdly, I think this issue hit me better than the first one. Like, I get why you guys would get sucked in by the first one, but there's something about this issue that I was just like, okay, let's go.
Is it the maple
leaves?
Really
delivered. Sorry?
Is it the maple leaves everywhere? That's another Bachalo.
Maybe. That is definitely something that came to mind, is like, oh, that's going to stick around for a while.
I love it.
I think it's that
I love it so much.
The story and the art both deliver on the promise of the first issue.
Yeah, I agree. It's there's a lot of really great character interaction, acting again. It takes everything that's good about the first one and really builds upon it in a really nice way. And there's some really nice, we'll get to it later, but like just some storytelling techniques, the Scrabble interaction between Husk and Skin, where we'll get to it, but there's all this really nice stuff. And I do think that you see him get better with every issue going forward for a good stint.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Is I could start to see the Bachalo that I know starting to come through more. Like, okay, yes.
Yeah, and not just him. I think like the collaboration between Bachalo and Buckingham, like they have hit their stride. Do you know what I mean? Like here, the lightning, the skies. Like I don't know what level of who is doing who, but it works. And these pages, especially in the 2, they're so busy. Like there's so much going on.
It's crazy how he's able to do that, to make it so chaotic but clear. Because you have all these like foreground elements,
but they're also the leaves and the lightning are both directing you over to the next panel. Like it's not just there for chaos. It's the illusion of chaos to direct your eye for storytelling, which is hard to do.
Yeah, and he does this great like focal length effect where like it's a big close up of Gateway's face here that is very very effective as he's looking away as Jubilee is getting angry at him, referencing something from the the Claremont run, the first appearance of Jubilee, because Gateway is connected to Jubilee joining the X-Men.
That's Jubilee's
I thought he
intro.
would be from the Outback era of the
Yep.
80s.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Jubilee's a very 80s character.
Oh, really? No.
This lightning is so thick, it's so big and exaggerated.
I love it. The fuzzy edges and the little crackles coming out on around it too.
Yeah, and it's just ever present for these 3 issues, and it's very cool looking. And a lot of melodrama, which is a big part of X-Men.
Yeah, which works so well because I think it drives home that they're teenagers. Like, teenagers just have so many emotions all the time, so that when it does rain around them, it's not raining, it's a storm.
Yeah. And Bachalo is so good at portraying this weather, and for the sake of mood. Yeah, and here's that fun Scrabble game that you were talking about, Louie.
Yeah, where they're just using the tiles to say what's not being said to each other. It's just a really nice, really nice technique.
Yeah, and does it feel like he hasn't fully figured Skin out yet? Like, he's still, because by the time he's in Bachalo is back on issue like 17 or 18, he's like got a firm design on Skin, and this feels like it feels inconsistent, but also within character of somebody whose skin is like constantly melting, or he's trying to keep in control, because his face shape is very inconsistent all throughout.
That the distance between his nose and the top of his lips changes considerably.
Which kind of makes sense for a character whose skin melts and shifts all the time. Yeah. But he does. He goes to a pointy nose when he comes back, and so like Skin has always had this kind of, in the early issues, has this kind of shorter, like squat nose, and then it just goes full point later on. So there's like a very big shift there, and I think it just comes down to Bachalo being like, I want to draw a pointy nose now.
Yeah, just to have a different silhouette.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Sink always had a different silhouette, so I don't know. But like the acting is on point in all of this, as specifically with Skin, where he goes the full gamut of just sort of arrogance, and then like inquisitive, like, what are you talking about, to being demoralized here. And you can tell that this is the most fun character for Bachalo to draw. I think, like, in New Mutants, the most Bill Sienkiewicz character was Warlock. It sort of distilled everything that Bill Sienkiewicz wanted to draw, and sort of like maybe even Bill Sienkiewicz's I guess like chaotic nature of drawing. And it feels like Chamber is distilling everything about Chris Bachalo's style into one character.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's so extreme.
Yeah, I mean, this is the amount of different lightning that's shooting out of him is very extreme and like chaotic and wild.
And none of that pesky lower jaw to have to draw either.
Yeah.
So if you go between these two pages, the pages where panel 1 is the lightning storm, and then you go to the second page, like I'm just reading it, following along in my floppy, the inking style changes in a little bit more of a thick way, like there's more thick lines present. If you just do a quick flip back and forth.
I kind of noticed that as well.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
but the scene is still the same.
This looks like a paste up. Or is it? Was that a paste up of the previous page? Or maybe not. Yeah, this is so part of that is like they took this panel and blew it up.
I'd say the faces, but that's
yeah. And then
and panel 2, like the scratchy shadow on the floor, like that's kind of off, I would say.
Yeah. I wonder what went on there. Maybe it was.
Oh no! I blew this paste up. Now I have to ink this page
to match it.
Yeah,
with a pen that bleeds.
Yeah.
And also maybe there was a bad batch of paper. Who knows? Because like I had read that in his first Hulk issue, they sent him a bad batch of paper, and that was like his first Marvel gig, and he thought like, oh, this is just what I have to deal with. And then somebody like the inker Mark Farmer had to tell him like, no, this is not normal. But yeah, Penance is another really fun character.
Yeah,
to draw. It feels like.
Yeah, I love the design of her hands. That despite how long and dangerous they are, the way Bachalo draws just like them at rest. I don't know why, but it's like, I wish I could draw elegant. Yeah. There you go. Yes. Yeah. I wish I could draw regular hands that good, let alone exaggerated ones.
Yeah. So this page with Chamber, out of all the pages we're going to look at today, like if I were to own a piece of original art, it would be this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great page.
Oh yeah, agreed.
Which and I like that it captures the mix of chaos and serenity that his character is, of like clearly chaotic with all this lightning spewing out of him, but then just sitting down and waiting. He's they're all supposed to go look for Penance, and he's gonna wait for Penance to come to him, I guess.
Yeah, it's a beautiful page. And then the inking on that face on the leftmost panel as well is just so nice. Like it has this different kind of feel to it. And I do like how close-ups will often do that a bit in these early issues. Like it's almost like a comic version of the Ren and Stimpy where you go to a close-up and it has a stylistic shift. You know what I mean? That adds to the like heightens that moment, and I think it works really well there.
Yeah, he's leaning into his Bill Sienkiewicz style with this close-up, I think.
Yeah.
Really or not necessarily style, but like using a lot of those mixed media techniques, which not a lot of mixed media here going, but just like busting out the white paint, it seems like, and dry brush. And
yeah.
But here we have a different version of that Banshee's power set here. Which I look at this up close and I'm trying to figure out, like part of it looks like it was in the inks, but then
like one of those whiteout pens.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's here because it is a little jagged, but also up here it looks like it might have been an overlay. So,
but it gets pretty jaggedy towards the top there.
Yeah, and actually there's more blacks on here, so of course it would look more clear. So, yeah, that might be it, but. That must have been a pain for the colorist to pull that section out.
Yeah, it's a great depiction of it again, though. I really like that it's because there have been times when Banshee's powers are just kind of like loosely sonic, but this is like no, he's producing it from his vocal cords. He needs his mouth open as wide as it can be.
Yeah,
and it takes. I love that he's leaning forward, like it's taking some effort to push this sound out.
Yeah, and you get a lot of fun like wildlife here with the frogs, and you see a bunch of different wildlife throughout these next two issues, which is again like he's just having more fun than anybody else in comics, I think. But we get in this various stuff, these various issues, we get like interludes of just like setting up future comics.
I love the end of interlude.
Yeah, it's very loud. And this was weird because it's like connecting. I guess this might be Monet's father, which is being hunted by who was this character? Orphan Maker or whatever. But then we see this villain come back, not even connected to this story later on. So yeah, very
interesting.
Then we move on to issue 3. And so this is basically a 3-parter, you could say.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful double page.
It is. That's one of my favorites.
I really love the texture that he puts on all of the wrapping on Penance. And I think it also shows up on Chamber when he's got the scarf on.
Well, it's straps. Also
Yeah.
It's also on it's on their cloaks as well. Like,
yeah.
and it looks
It's
like
very,
Franklin Booth. It looks like a scratchboard painting, like how Franklin Booth would do, like Golden Age Illustrator.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's supposed
like,
to be texture or just directionality to give volume or something, but
it's probably just like fun for him to draw that texture.
Yeah.
But like, how fun is it that, like, you know, most superhero costumes are just all weather costumes. Like if these characters are in the winter, they're wearing the same thing, or like most superheroes. But like, Bachelo's really leaning into the idea of like, oh well, they're out in the rain, so you know we have to give them these rain cloaks.
Yep.
And you don't always see that amount of thought put into the average superhero comic, I think.
And, well, yeah, I would assume most artists don't want to. They don't want to have to draw that sort of thing. But you get the feeling from this. Bachalo, he just loves drawing. So yeah, of course I'll draw weather appropriate gear for them on top of everything. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And so this is interesting. I didn't really realize this interlude later on. Is this supposed to be Emma Frost's sister?
Yes, it is.
Emma Frost has a sister?
She's got
That's what I said when I found out.
Yeah. Yeah. What's her name? What's this character's name?
Adrian?
Cordella?
That's
Cordelia.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there's two. And they both pop up in Gen X at some point, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that's Cordelia, and then there's another one called Adrian. And yeah, she comes back. This story comes back in an annual during the first year, I think, so they kind of wrap this up. But that's actually a pretty interesting. It's got really early Ashley Wood art.
Cool.
And it's quite cool. I think Sienkiewicz
Ashley Wood, he was always following Chris Bachalo, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he followed him on Ghost Rider 2999, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, this is like the first appearance of Mondo.
Yeah. Great character. Never got his due.
Yeah, because I guess this was always set up as spoilers, but he was always supposed to be a bad guy, like being, I guess, put into the team to sabotage them or something.
I don't know.
Oh, really?
I don't know. Oh. I don't know if he was always supposed to be that, or if that's just an idea that happened and then they did that a bit later. You know, it's hard to know with these early issues how well. This is what I mean, like how well things are planned out. I think then sometimes they're just kind of ad-libbing a little bit, and then an idea hits them and they're like, yeah, let's do that. And I think, like, obviously that's an integral part of Bachalo's pages because he does inject so much extra kind of fun material, the animals, these little storytelling elements, and that just increases as the book goes on to the point where you have whole stories happening outside the frame of the main narrative, which is really cool. And I think what makes the book so compelling.
Yeah, definitely. That's like the benefit of the Marvel method.
Yeah.
Is that I always say, like, the artist is essentially a co-writer, but without the credit.
Yeah. Is that how Lobdell was scripting at this time? Because I know, like, from our Capullo episodes, we know that's how he was working. But I also get the sense that there were writers at this time that were like, no, I'm going full script. Just like Alan Moore or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not
sure if it was a mandate.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure if it was a mandate or not, but I think like most Marvel scripts were Marvel method at this time.
Okay.
And it might have changed with the Quesada era, because I think the whole thing with the Quesada era was this writing sucks. Let's get all these Vertigo writers to make the writing better.
Right.
And I mean, your mileage may vary, but there's a lot of give and take between that, where, like, yes, the writing got better, but you definitely lost something from the Marvel method, where the to some extent, the artists are basically hired to, follow the script to the letter. So
yeah, you go from film director to TV director. Just turn the camera on. Okay, let's do this. Yeah.
So with a bunch of these pages here, you get this this interesting thing where you get like a large dominant panel with a lot of segmented, almost grid-like panels, and he does that a bunch in this issue. Where else was that? Like right here, and then a lot of that right here, and it makes for a really interesting looking page.
And lessens his work, I would think. Like he's setting up, here's where they are in space, but now time to drop that background out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good call.
I don't want to keep going back to it, but I'm still picking up like just different thickness of lines between pages in the inking style.
Oh yeah.
Like if you go to so just flip one more page over. This page with penance, like if you look at her face in panel 1, that's really just he's using really thick lines. It almost reminds me of like, I don't know, that rough style that Doug Monkey likes to ink in.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is that a pay? That can't be a paste up, is it? Are you guys? Am I crazy?
No, you're right.
You guys know?
It definitely.
There is like a kind of a bleed to the line, right? There's a little bit of a bleed to it. Like, I don't know if he's using an old pen or in some pages. I don't know. It bugs me.
It bugs you,
I can't get past it. No, it's not. It doesn't bug me per se. I mean,
but you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be just due to deadlines, paper quality. It could be any number of factors, right?
Yeah.
Because Banshee's, well, actually, also, if you notice, Banshee's, his sound blast, like they got that whiteout pen look around the those tube lines. And that must have been really hard for them to separate from the line art and stuff like that. So maybe it in layers somehow some pages kind of got a little bit extra overlapped or I don't know what it could be, but there's a lot of multimedia stuff in this issue, like big time.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and it's kind of messing with my eye.
Yeah.
It could also be
just line thickness. It's mainly line thickness. You can just tell like there's a thicker line around some faces, and then you turn the page and like some faces they look fine. They're very thin line, but yeah,
it could just be Buckingham trying to draw attention to specific things too. Like, I want you to make sure that you pay attention to this person, even if the line thickness isn't necessarily a distance from the picture plane thing. It's it draws attention to Penance or whoever. Or maybe he's just trying to figure it out. Like, you know what? This is a book I could probably afford to try stuff out on. It's not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah, I wonder how much pressure there is on him to start a new, brand new X-Men issue 1. And maybe there's no pressure and it's just sort of like, I'm just here to have fun. Because it definitely looks like he's having fun. But yeah, I don't know. It's all we can do is speculate, really.
Mark Buckingham, if you're watching, and we know you are, let us know.
This is another one of my favorite pages here.
Yeah.
Because it's a clear character moment between these two as they're making a connection as sort of, I guess this is a team of freaks, but like probably these two more than anyone. And it's just such a great moment. Yeah,
I like they kind of mirror each other.
Yeah, and you have Jubilee just watching from the sidelines, and it's got a little bit of this Joss Whedon aspect before Joss Whedon, where they have a dramatic moment that gets undercut by Jubilee making fun of a life lesson being had, which I find interesting. But now that you pointed it out, Louie, I find it interesting where you have the the fiery
Yeah.
part of his jaw, and then it shifts over. And I guess this is supposed to be like a tonal shift.
Yeah. Like that feels like a clear decision related to like the story in that moment, as opposed to like a coloring error or whatever.
Yeah, this is the climax, and then calm things down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think early on
Very
they were
cool.
playing with that, and then it doesn't go anywhere.
So do you like? I haven't seen Chamber in a lot of modern comics. Do you think they keep that up much? Or
Not the
it's
color
just gone,
change
it's
thing.
always...
Nah, as far as I can remember in modern comics, it's always kind of orangey yellow. And often the other thing now is it's depicted as fire, often, as opposed to like this energy.
Oh yeah.
So that's the other thing that I think people will do sometimes. But like, there's fire all behind them in that middle panel, and where did that come from? So who can blame?
I assumed it was from him lighting the forest on fire.
It's supposed to be like this energy, this psionic energy or whatever, you know. Early on there was like a school of thought about it's not fire and it doesn't burn, it impacts. You know, it's like a physical. It's kind of like Cyclops' optic blasts. You know, they're not lasers, they're not heat. It's like a physical impact that they hit you with. And so I think Chamber and Cyclops have a fair bit of mirroring kind of like Chamber feels like the Cyclops of this team, you know what I mean? And I think there's even a bit of overlap in the design of their powers and the effect that it has on them as a character and all of these things. And if you read some of that early stuff, Lobdell clearly saw Chamber as being like a leader for the team going forward. And again, that doesn't really, I mean, it does kind of eventuate, but nothing gets as set in stone as it does in the X-Men series, because it only, you know, they're only on the book 30 issues or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting point. This is something I love about Bachalo stuff, where he's like playing with perspective, where he's wheeling this thing in, and so you get this kind of curvilinear perspective almost, and it's just more fun than just doing the accurate perspective on it. And it does look like he's just winging it, and it still looks perfect.
Yeah.
You know, I know you guys were like talking about how he depicts his face, like how the face changes shape all the time, but his posture also, Skin's posture I'm talking about, sorry, like one arm is longer than the other, and they're both very droopy. His shoulders are always droopy, and he's not like hunchback, but you can tell like he's kind of hanging, like off the skeletal frame. The skin is just hanging like underneath the shirt.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. It's he definitely has different postures and acting for everybody else, for every character.
And it's entirely possible that in the creation of Skin, Bachalo, recognized, I can really play around with him. Like, it's because you see that especially with his fingers, when his fingers are in action, they become quite distended and bent backwards and elongated. Not just here, but when he was on Overwatch while they were looking for penance, he's quite like hitting buttons. He's clearly putting a lot of force behind them as fingers bend backwards and stuff.
Yeah, leaning into that rubbery, cartoony thing.
Yeah, because you get the feeling that Skin is kind of like Mr. Fantastic, but not exactly.
No. So here we get our December 1994 issue, where I guess we had 3 autumn issues, and now Chris Bachalo gets to show off his snow, the wintry aspect, which is great. He's so good at like using the weather to create atmosphere.
Yeah, he loves winter stuff.
Yeah, you think? I guess there was a memorable Spider-Man.
That's what's living in my head. Yeah, it's just he loves web slinging through the snow, and
So
I think
I don't know of
a Moon
anybody
Knight,
else
a
who.
black and white story he did with Hickman. He had the snow in there too.
Oh yeah. So did he always? Does he still draw snow like this? Because I don't know of anybody else who draws snow
Yeah,
like
they're like
this.
giant drops of it. Yeah, giant like
But it's
just
also like different
masses.
shapes. There's
Different
masses
shapes, it's
here,
different
and then
closeness to the viewer.
does anybody else draw snow like this?
Uh, Not quite. We saw some of it with some of it in the back matter of the of Tomb of Dracula, but it's not this, not nearly this exaggerated.
Chaotic, exaggerated,
Yeah,
just like now. It looks like Marvel lost the digital file for this because, as I mentioned earlier, like you can see a paper texture here. I guess this is old computer technology, so that maybe the files got corrupted and they had to go and grab a physical copy and scan it in.
they were probably thinking after like storage space is, by 1997. Well, we're not reprinting Generation X number 4, so get rid of it.
Well, it's interesting because like this 94, 95, 96 era of Marvel, like whenever they reprint this stuff, like you can find a Wolverine Epic collection where there's a lot of scanned in issues. And so, yeah, who knows? And then there's also a lot of 90s like Image comics that the coloring has just been lost forever.
Well, this is a transition time. It's very much for comics as well, right? Because they've been created and designed to not be that permanent. You're supposed to beat them up and trade them and tear them and cut them out and stuff. But the collector mentality has firmly taken hold by this point. So there is this weird push and pull between, well, how long are these lasting? Should we put more quality into creating the base? But the idea of of trade paperbacks, they're not that popular, especially because of the speculator first run issue market.
Yeah, it wasn't until like the Quesada era where it became a mandate to have a trade come out like a month after every arc.
Yeah, like they've collected things like Weapon X or older X-Men stories in trades, but not nearly to the level that they would in just a few years from this.
So this was a fun thing, the wrapping paper background.
Yeah, it's fun.
Which I thought I saw this when I was a kid. This was the first time he was doing this, but as I explained in our Shade, the Changing Man episode, the first of our Bachalo series, he did this for the first time in like a Shade, the Changing Man, like issue 19 or something. And I feel like it was a little more garish in that Shade issue. Here it's a little more pleasing to the eyes, like the colors. I mean,
yeah,
they're not hurting my eyes.
It's still so full on as a page, but somehow it works pretty well most of the time. Yeah, it's very loud. But like it's a holiday issue, so it makes sense of it, or it works.
He loves playing with these sort of paste up patterns.
Yeah.
Which it's a part of, it's like a Bachaloism, I guess. And also like these bricks, like to show every single brick is something that he does.
And they're not like perfectly lined. They're always like curved and like it's
very organic.
I drew bricks like I probably still draw bricks like that just because of reading these comics.
Right on.
Yeah, I want to start doing that actually, just to like be a little less rigid, because I think I fall back on technicals a little too much, and it can stiffen the work up. Like for example, if I was to draw this truck, it would be perfectly in perspective. Like the draftsmanship would be pretty well done, but it would not look as interesting as this because he's warping the camera view of this, where we get like a perfect circle for this front tire, and then the back tire is an ellipse in like perspective, and it's just so much more fun looking.
I figured that it had been like pulled in because it's like a front wheel drive truck that like, well, the front tire has.
It could be a bit like that, but it definitely has a warp to it and a directional pull that he uses, like in that Scrabble table. pulls you into this like focal point of the panels really nicely.
Ooh, yeah, good call. Yeah, don't pay attention to this truck. Pay attention to this crowd.
So here we get all these little characters running around, these little elf characters, and in this they're actually so holding the panel, which is a lot of fun. And so we get, that's another thing is like it would be super easy to just draw them in their regular outfits, but I always love when he puts them in civilian outfits, just to see the different outfits that he puts them in. Basically, him thinking about character.
Yeah,
and this is setting up more of the relationship between these two, which you gotta love.
Where? Oh no, wait. Where is Penance supposed to be? Is she in like a greenhouse?
So
is that what's going on?
There's this like biosphere, which is their version of the danger room. So it's not. It's just like a big biosphere, enclosed natural environment, which is where they train, as opposed to like a holographic, crazy death room that the X-Men have.
Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yes, on Chambers Energy, like that's where they're starting to. They're doing digital color rendering as well on it, which is they haven't done on his in that way, like as defined as that. Up to this point, so this is where you start to see. It doesn't work as well as like some of the way it's been colored in previous issues. I love those apple slices. They're so good. Oh, yeah. They're so well drawn.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite pages actually. Of if there was a page that I wanted to own, that I think would be one of them, because the butterflies, just the general composition of it, nice interaction, and the apple slices.
Yeah. And again they were so good at like setting up the drama between these characters, like who would become enemies and who would become closer friends. So all these quieter pages were a lot of fun.
Love those background characters again. That weirdo kid, that wacky mutants kid. Yeah.
Can you think of anybody else who designs pages like this, where you get pages segmented here, and then you get like a thick border around this segmented panel, and then you get a big one here, and same thing with here. Like everything's sort of segmented in different sections, and I can't think of anybody who designs a page like this.
No name is coming to mind. It's the sort of thing that, like, okay, this is going to sound, stay with me on this analogy. I've been watching a lot of Columbo here at my house. And Steven Spielberg directs the first episode, and you can really see like, oh, this guy has it already. And it's clear that every other episode afterwards is different directors being like, well, I gotta at least try to get to that space, and they're not getting there. This feels like the sort of thing that 90s artists, there were plenty that were trying to do this, but not nearly as well as Bachalo.
Yeah.
I felt the same way with the series Tokyo Vice, where you had Michael Mann direct the first episode, and it was stunning. And this is like a TV show I need to stick with, because this is cinema, although it's TV. And then the next episode is just regular TV.
Yeah.
That Columbo effect. But yeah, I love the page design of this. I think he was very concerned with making an interesting page. And it shows.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, sorry, Lou, if you take the page on the top row of panels, if you did make them horizontal, just going straight across the page, would it be as interesting as just tilting it, kind of like the Cassidy effect almost? I call it the Cassidy effect now.
Yeah.
Which is just another word for a Dutch angle.
Yeah, but here he's done it with the actual panels, which is cool. And like later on, his more modern stuff, he does entire pages compositions where everything is tilted, and it's really cool. Like I tried to take some of that into my Godzilla stuff. It is. He's experimenting a lot, and he manages to do it pretty successfully most of the time, which is admirable.
Yeah, it's not a mess. It's which is it would be so easy to turn that into a mess, but yeah, just very interesting.
Yeah, really nice, strong compositions within the panels themselves, like because those angled panels jutting down into that Jubilee panel works so well because it just puts you at the bottom of those stairs and your eyes just follow up to Jubilee. Like he seems to have a good eye for navigating both the larger page composition and panel composition and accentuating it and leading your eye through it, utilizing each panel's own personal composition really well.
Yeah, definitely.
This is also, man, what a heartbreaking story. Like we all love the technical aspects and like the storytelling, but man, what a heartbreaking display of like a child that feels outside of regular life.
Yeah, and like this is the killer line here.
Yeah.
And this look on Jubilee's face where she comes in like guns a-blazing to attack the bad guy, and she sees this.
It's just a little boy wanting to be accepted. Yeah, and it's just, oh, goddamn.
And then there's even a capper on that where they basically say that like, oh, he's not even a mutant. he just looks funny. Like
what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Where was this? A mutant without any of the benefits of being one of us. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Apparently he was just born that way. So
which is the sort of thing that like, that's what a X-Men or mutant story should be about, right? It should give you that kind of Twilight Zone reveal of, you thought it was this. How do you feel now?
Yeah. And so
I was the asshole all along.
So the monsters on Maple Street?
This was December 1994. All the X-Men comics ended with this crystal pattern showing up, and all of them were dramatic, serious, just like Rogue and Gambit finally kiss right before they're gonna die, and then Generation X is the fun book, so they end it with an announcement from Jubilee, and she just like talks and talks and talks as the crystal takes over the world. So yeah, this was like the fun X-Men book at the time. And I was speaking about like the Claremont continuity. This crystal taking over the planet was like, there was a dangling plot line from the Claremont era where like the Destiny, the precog
crystal.
Destiny, the precog character had a vision. This was during the Silvestri years, but like the character had a vision where like the entire world was crystallized and then the crystal shattered. And so this was them taking that plot line and making basically Destiny predicting the future.
I want to ask you guys actually about this, the design of how she comes onto frame. Is she supposed to be like pulling herself up and over a ledge or something? Like, because it's strange on its own to have just like the crystal growing around her, but then for her to like, here I am, time to read, right? Like,
it's funny. It's a funny choice, and maybe it just adds to that vertical motion of the crystal going up the page, but she also like it gets you used to that before the crystal's even on the page because she comes up from below.
Yeah. Oh,
it is a funny decision though.
It's very fun. It's we just got to introduce the Age of Apocalypse.
And I guess
we don't gotta.
It subverts expectations a little bit, which is what this book does a bit. You know, like you're saying, you expect some big dramatic reveal, but instead it's just her not coming in from the side, coming in from the bottom, and just being like, this thing's gonna happen, yada yada yada.
Closed for renovations. Yeah,
she's basically saying, Generation X, what is this crap? Because the book becomes like a month later, Generation X, a completely different universe. And if we go to, here's the Marvel monograph, art of Chris Bachalo, and in this, Chris Bachalo comments that like there was an actual debate of like, we've only had 4 issues out. That should we cancel the book, and should it not be included in the Age of Apocalypse? Like that conversation was going
and
on.
it ends up being the best.
They decided
the best Age of Apocalypse book. Like, there's no other Age of Apocalypse book that even comes close to Generation Next, I don't reckon.
That's very true. Yeah. At the beginning of the pandemic,
and it's just so dark.
I read it, and this was the only one that held my attention.
The only other one I think that comes close is the Weapon X Adam Kubert one, and a lot of that is just has to do with the art. I mean, Larry Hama was a great writer on that book.
Yeah,
it's a really
I was gonna say,
but
I was really into Adam Kubert Wolverine at that time.
Yeah, and something else he said in that little write-up is that when Bachalo designed the original Generation X characters, he wanted them to all be wearing black. And I guess they the editorial wanted the traditional blue and gold colors. And Chris Bachalo still drew them. Like, if you look at the black and white artwork, it looks like they should be wearing leather or something. And they just added red onto it. But with the Age of Apocalypse, they basically said, okay, for this one, you can have your black costumes.
Nice.
But we won't look at, we're getting a little long, so we're just going to go straight to Generation X number 5. For me as an 11-year-old, this was interesting because issues 1 to 4 took place in the last quarter of 1994. So you got autumn and December. And then you have this 4-month gap where it's Generation Next. And then suddenly you're in spring. So issue 5 takes place in the springtime, I guess.
Yeah.
And how about this opening shot?
This is a great,
I love this one.
Talk about the digital effects, because this looks like he drew, and this shows up a couple times in these next 2 issues. It looks like he had this lightning effect on a separate piece of paper, and he gave 2 layers essentially to the colorist, and then just to play around with this emerging digital coloring technology.
Yeah. And this is the place to do it, right?
This is the book and to do. It's also like it's something you brought up recently, Taylor, is like he's a young guy, and I think you mentioned in a previous episode the younger creators are more adaptable and more willing to play with these emerging technologies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How big is Gateway supposed to be? Because I've seen him in Secret Warriors and Krakoa era stuff where he's an adult-sized man.
He's a normal-sized fella. Normally, but
Okay.
You know, I think Chris Bachalo really likes playing with proportions.
Probably on the shorter side, but proportionally. Yeah.
Okay. It's just the TV. Like I had been thinking that throughout, but then when he's sitting on the TV, it's like,
or even when he's sitting next to Chamber in that panel down on the bottom, like he's very clearly drawing him as a tiny figure, you know, like a very small person. Which I think, I don't know if that was introduced somewhere else, but I think it's just him. Like, and even like this picture of Jubilee on the right, you know, it is. He's really leaning into the style that he's going to go down, especially in the 90s, where it is very much more cartoony, much more accentuated, larger like proportions, big hands, larger heads, shorter like bodies. You know, something happens after Generation Next, and he really just goes ham into it.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is much closer to what
So something happened in Generation Next. Where he's got a pointy nose. Like that's a very you wouldn't recognize that as the same character pre.
Well, I want to say though, in that 4-month break, it's almost like they did like a time jump, or at least the kids are older now. Like Jubilee looks a little bit older, Skin looks a little bit older. Like he's got more of a goatee thing going on. Like his sense of style is more mature.
Yeah, I love the comedy of that
thing running past in the background.
Yeah, what a great tie-in to just the overall. I actually misread the apple as like a jewel in the back of his fist
because it's so shiny.
Who the hell could that be?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taylor, you'll probably have some commentary to do with this. I guess in these issues, it's not revealed why she's frozen. But when it was revealed why she keeps having these episodes where she's frozen, I was a little confused because I don't. It was probably around issue 20 that like Beast assesses her and basically says like, and this was like supposed to be a big shocking twist that like, oh, Monet has autism.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I remember thinking like I'm like at that point like what 12 or 13, and I'm just like, what is? I don't know what autism is. Do autistic people freeze? And like,
I think they can. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's a as far as I know, my wife works with kids with autism, and it's stimuli can become quite overwhelming, and you get a shutdown. It's just like there's not as much filter, and emotional regulation can become quite overwhelming as well. So, and one leads to the other, so you can get quite a bit of like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, it's not the most well-known aspect of autism or whatever. So I always look back and chalked it up to like I don't know, like ignorant 90s storytelling or something. I don't know, but you would say that it is pretty accurate, I suppose.
I mean, it's going to be as accurate as the 90s is probably capable of. I'm sure there's more to it than just she freezes, but because it's what I think what's also confusing about it is adding in that she has superpowers, which really involve like she's indestructible and she's super strong. So yeah, you're not going to move her. Because I read it as she's frozen. Something has frozen her in time or something.
Yeah,
but
no, it's all character focused, I guess. Like
that's really interesting. I'm gonna
read
more of that and run it past Caitlin, see what she thinks.
Yeah, and there's all these it feels like, do they lean into that with current stories with Monet? Because it feels like on this you want to highlight what every character is, what makes them special or unique, and it doesn't feel like that's referenced much, but I'm not sure.
No, but they do talk about how she doesn't like being touched, and I think that's a common thing with people with autism as well, is like, don't touch me. Like it's too much.
You're going to need a whole other episode to talk about what happens with that character. Because and I don't know if you guys mind spoiling it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, who knows?
You can spoil anything
at the moment, M is two twin sisters, two 8-year-old twin sisters, one of which is autistic, merged together into one body, so they become a 16-year-old girl. That's why she likes climbing trees, drawing, like sketching in a book, or they put all these little things. That's why she freezes sometimes, because that's the moments where the autistic twin is in control, or so it is like this whole weird thing. And around issue 30 something, I think, they get split up into the two twin sisters, so you effectively lose M as a character. The problem is that she's one of the most popular characters of the book, so then they end up bringing back another M, and the twin sisters, like, it's really complex. Penance is actually M, and yada yada. It just goes, and it's different under different subsequent writers and stuff. So it becomes this like really classic X-Men, super convoluted thing that gets retconned multiple times to the point where it's like this knot of stuff that is really hard to untangle. But yeah, that's that.
Yeah. M is the fourth summer sister.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I tried looking up what her deal was, and I just ran into a wall of text on a Wikipedia article and thought, no, I'm sure it's explained later. I'll find out.
In contemporary comic books, she is it's technically a different character to the one that you're reading here, and the autism stuff, that stuff isn't no longer part of the character, because that was the twins that were doing it. So yeah, it's tricky.
Even in her first appearance, there's reference to the twins. So this was all planned from the beginning.
Yeah.
And even even in the second issue, this kind of alludes to that, I think, where like Penance escapes and then says it's a frightening prospect that there might be another version of Penance, let alone a multitude.
Multitude.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because there's a reference to her not like Monet not liking being touched as well, or I think in that earlier X-Men issue.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it feels like a lot of stuff was like flying by the seat of their pants, like making it up as they went along. But the Monet stuff, it feels like it was clearly seeded. But yeah, wow, what a convoluted character.
Yeah. The one that's not her. Anyway,
and I love that. I don't know the circumstances behind Lovedale leaving, but it's sort of just like he left before that was concluded and just sort of gave this mess over to somebody else to take, and it's just like, well, thanks.
Yeah. Corporate comics.
Yeah. But yeah, so it is fun to see like the evolution of Bachalo here, where he's clearly changing these characters up and how leaning more into that cartooning. Yeah, even with
these are some beautiful pages. Yeah, this interaction's great here.
So I feel like there are three pillars of X-Men storytelling: is action, melodrama, and the prejudice metaphor. And here we get two of those, where we get a bit of the melodrama of her. She had one beer, and she's sad about the legacy virus, which is. It's supposed to be a allegory for the AIDS epidemic.
Yep.
And then the third pillar shows up right here, where we get the action. And here's where this digital effect just sort of flattens out this power set.
Yeah, it doesn't work too well there.
I'm the opposite. I love the effect on Singh's powers in these early books. I just think it works.
It's very distinct.
The rainbow ribbon works. It's when it gets a little too flat here. I agree with Eric.
Yeah, because they don't utilize it in the same way anymore, which I always think is a bit of a shame. I think
what does it look like now?
Sometimes it just is colored like one color, and sometimes it just looks a bit like more. I like the flatness of it, like as a visual element on the page, because already there's so much going on with just the aura-isticness of that color, and like the flatness of it pops Singh off a page so well. Whereas, in modern comics, sometimes you'll see different artists will manage to incorporate it well, but they use a lot more traditional styles of representing energy in comics, and this, I mean, obviously nostalgia, but also I just think there was something really iconic about the way it was used in these early issues of the book. That early digital things that actually hold up pretty well.
Yeah, it's a super graphic. It feels like this is him experimenting with, well, I'm pushing everything else. What if I tried to do that with this? I just looked up like what does Pepe Larraz's Singh looks like, and it's it's fine. I'm a huge fan of Larraz, but it's nothing. It's not.
Well, yeah,
like
Pepe Larraz and Marte Gracia are amazing.
Yeah, but like
So
in terms
like
of the
Singh, I reckon,
design, it's just kind of it's kind of like he's got an outline that has color behind him almost. It's like a silhouette of himself kind of flickering, full of that much more interesting color.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing where it's just like, well, this is Bachalo's character, so I guess maybe we're always going to be a little bit more biased when Bachalo is drawing it, because this is his. Now, how about this DeLuca effect, where again he's playing with layers? Like he gave two separate pieces of paper to the colorist, and so the colorist can layer it up and change the opacity so that we know that this is the final image. because he's played with the DeLuca effect a couple of times, but never like this.
Yeah, it's kind of strange to use it on Jubilee, because she's not particularly fast, is she?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's X-Men comics where everybody is a gymnast. Everybody's a ballerina gymnast, I guess.
Yeah.
I think she does actually have some kind of gymnast background.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I recall correctly. Yeah, but yeah, they all do.
I love this. I love this slow-mo effect down here. This is so cool. And she gets like this is like a paused image essentially, right here, and then it gets the sense of like, and then time speeds up and she gets flung out the window. Very effectively done. And then here we get an even more wild version of that effect. This one actually works a lot better for me because it's like a flat view.
Yeah, I really like that panel. And then the next one, the silhouette, but with the colors of the aura all around him.
Wow, you can just see how much he's pushing these character designs from just 4 issues previous.
Guess he did a lot of growing in those 4 months. And that's also crazy is he like essentially he did the first 6 issues of Generation X, but if you add Generation Next on there, that was 10 issues in a row, was it?
Yeah.
And the first issue was double sized, and then he also did the San Diego preview issue. So that was quite the intense workload. And I mean, it doesn't look like he was running out of steam much. It was just go.
He was pretty on the ball the whole time, yeah. Firing on all cylinders.
This is something else.
These first couple of pages were really great.
Yeah, and this is something I highlighted in the Shade stuff, which is that like he always left room for a really cool title sequence, which I don't see enough of that going on. Taking the title sequence in mind. Yeah,
they've kind of gotten rid of that as a whole in corporate comics.
Yeah, if anybody's watching and you're going to be working at corporate comics in the next like 3 or 4 years, try and incorporate stuff like that. But again, this is something that you can do when you're working Marvel method. Oftentimes it's just like, every page you're given is 5 panels and you just have to work with what you're given.
Yeah.
So he had more artistic leeway working on these comics.
I love the detailing on this is Marrow, right? The woman with all the bones. Yep. I love the detailing of her skin being like it's stretched and dried out and just gnarly looking. Because I've seen images of her.
She's such a great character too.
Of her in, I think, probably after this, where she's portrayed as conventionally attractive.
They prettied her up a bit.
Yeah.
They do.
This is just like, ugh.
But the characters always commented on like how ugly, or the narration always commented how ugly she was. Even in those pretty years, it was a bit of a dissonance going on between the art and the writing. But yeah, these are the years where she was an ugly Morlock, and it's just such an interesting look.
Just like Stegosaurus plates pushing out from her bones, and
I always wondered if the use of paint in this was because it's a teen book, so it's not a very bloody book, and if paint was a way to get around that, to have like it feel dangerous and grotesque and all of this stuff, but then she does pull a bone right out of her head, and then there's a hole in her head.
Yeah, it's intense, eh? Jesus.
And but maybe they got that through because it's hidden by the paint. You know what I mean? Like everyone's just like, oh, it's just more paint.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's an interesting.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I thought the same thing when we came to this sequence, and you look at this and I thought it was blood. And I immediately assumed that like, okay, they didn't want to color it bold red to, I guess, make it less bloody. And then you look up close and you see, oh no, there's paint here. And I don't know, but you do have blood here. So I think you're right, Louie. I think it was a sort of like having your cake and eating it too. it is bloody, but you have the paint to hide it.
This is also the era of like Spawn and other Image books that don't have any compunction.
And you got to compete with that.
Yeah, you got to compete, but you got to stay within your family-friendly Image as well. So it's probably a good compromise overall.
Well, it's still following the Comics Code Authority at this time.
That's right.
One of the rules was it can't be blood unless it's painted completely black.
Oh.
Oh, they must have eased up a little bit on that because...
Yeah.
I'm sure they've made some compromises, over the years, but...
As we know from our Tomb of Dracula episode, check that out now. There are periodic updates.
But yeah, so this page was interesting to me because it's like a double page spread, but not really. It is sort of designed that way, but like the panels don't really intersect that way. And yeah, even on the I thought it might have been because it was digital, but yeah, even on the page it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't line up. I always thought it was one image.
Yeah, it certainly and it looks like it reads like that. It reads better like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it just looks great as one image, but it doesn't fully line up. But yeah, I love it. I wonder if it was sold as a double page spread. I wonder if the person who owns this page owns both. And this is a fun little bit where like when they're around this character that causes you to lose your mutant powers, he starts melting. And look at that silhouette. He's really leaning into the cartooning.
Yeah. Well, you would think that if skin is around Leech, his skin would actually like tighten back up to typical.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Right?
He would look normal. Whatever, quote unquote.
Yeah, completely normal.
But although there are two of them, aren't there? There's the green one and the pink one.
Yeah. Well,
Artie and Leech.
What does the other one do?
Can't remember what Artie does.
Maybe he just has like
what Artie does.
Basic telepathic powers. Like he just communicates. It's actually a really cool power through visuals. He's like through emojis, kind of, like his speech bubble will have an image in it.
Right, the psychic holograms.
Yeah
by like touching, I guess. I don't know.
So later on, he'll just have a speech bubble, and it'll have like an emoji or not an emoji but you know what I mean, like just a very visual, a witch's face or something like that, where it's like, and that's what he's saying, and that's what the people are seeing, like that visual. It's cool,
like Calvin and Hobbes squaring.
Yeah, cool comics technique.
Yeah,
and he ends up joining the team after this, right? The two of them.
Yeah,
they do. Yeah,
I love this. Got a turtle in the background randomly.
Number 6.
Yeah, the 6th turtle. And here we get some 3D models, and
that's strange.
Curious about this. Like, what did Bachalo add this? Was it the colorist? Was it somebody at Marvel? And then you get like a very simple like 3D grid pattern. So yeah, I wonder who was playing around with that early 3D technology, which, I wonder what program they were using back then and just how much computing power it would have taken to render just this out.
Yeah.
You'd have to render your computer overnight, like have your computer rendering it over 2 nights or whatever.
Yeah, it's the 90s equivalent of the black hole from Interstellar. It takes 100 hours to render a frame.
Not a lot too much for this issue, but yeah, we get a fun little like explosion panel where the panel borders kind of explode. Very creative.
Like
and then the panels are all like frantic here.
And they get more stable as they go.
Yeah, as things sort of calm down a bit. And then like M returns after her incident to save the day as a sort of Deus Ex Machina maybe. And there's definitely a page here that Colin is going to want to comment on. This is...
Oh, yeah, his Wolverine's great.
Yeah.
Has Wolverine ever looked this monstrous?
But he's consistently been this big, giant, blocky figure with giant hands, giant forearms. Like, yeah, he's been consistent in the way he approaches the mass.
Yeah.
But his hairstyle changes from era to era too, depending on what's going on in the book. I would say
Makes it look like
because he's got like short hair in the Morrison era, but here his hair is just wild. I love this style.
Yeah, this is when he goes kind of feral, right? After the adamantium is ripped from him.
Yeah.
Bone Claws era.
Yeah.
I love how like he's Wolverine is portrayed as like short and stubby, but he's still a little bit taller than Jubilee.
Yeah, she's
or
like
are they the same height?
Nothing?
Or like I guess she's kind of
he's 5'3". Yeah,
he's got a kind of bend to his knees. She does too. But she's a teenage girl. I wouldn't. There are plenty of 5'0" women out there.
Yeah, but just great way to contrast these two characters.
Yeah,
this beanpole teenager with this monstrous bodybuilder.
Yeah. Yeah, and his just like feral looking face in the page, just
so monstrous looking. But I guess like he was living in the forest around this time or something. And then here we get the explosion that's referenced in the San Diego Collector's preview, which was a little bit confusing. I think in later issues they tried to explain it. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I stopped reading with this issue, and it was only when I got the Epic collection that I managed to fill in the gaps a bit. But
what made you stop reading?
Chris Bachalo left. Like the very next issue was a new artist, and I was like, yeah. Well, I mean, and also money issues. Like I only had so much money for this run. I think with the very first Generation X issue, all the X books relaunched as like X-Men Deluxe. They were all the ones the direct edition issues, not in comic shops, had glossy paper and it was more expensive. And so for that X-Men Deluxe relaunch, I decided to buy every X-Men issue going forward. But and then for the Age of Apocalypse, I was buying every X-Men issue. But by the end of the Age of Apocalypse, I couldn't afford every single X book. I wasn't a rich kid or anything. So as soon as Bachalo left, that was a good reason to drop the book.
But you said he comes back in like 10 issues or so?
Yeah,
he's
so
back. He comes back on issue 17, I think.
Yeah.
He continues doing covers for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he comes back on interiors for issue 17. He actually does a really great 5-issue run after he's back, and then does issue 25 and a few sporadic issues after that.
Okay.
But it's worth looking at because there's some cool stuff in there, and you see just how much his style is shifting.
Yeah,
like
and it goes in some pretty wild... it goes so wild that Marvel, for the first time ever, tells him to rein it in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when he's hired on X-Men right afterwards, they're like, we want you on X-Men, but like pull it back a bit. You went a little too far. We're getting a lot of mail about this.
Yeah.
Which we'll have to look at in a future episode. But yeah, I mean, these covers he continued to do were great. So he specifically took a break to go
favorites.
do the second Death miniseries.
So yes.
Maybe we'll have to have a follow-up episode where we look a little more closely at the Generation Next issues, and then that Death miniseries, and then we'll have to cover his big bold return to Generation X with issue 17.
Yeah,
but
great issue.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun doing this episode with you, Louie. You added a new interesting dynamic.
Yeah, man.
It's a pleasure.
Do it again.
Any chance to talk comics and to look at one of my favorite artists' book?
Hell yeah.
I think we're going to do like a Age of Apocalypse deep dive and actually cover all the series together and kind of... That's going to be like a multi-episode thing, but you definitely got to come back for that.
Yeah, I'd be keen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we're all artists here. So at the end of the episode, we like to either talk about what we've been drawing lately, or show off a piece of art we did. What has everybody been up to these days?
I'll be right back.
Taylor did some art. I'll say that
So did I.
I actually meant to do.
It's not finished as of this. Yeah.
I meant to do
Go ahead,
little. I've been doing little pieces of art like this, just to get back into more traditional art. And I meant to do a chamber piece. I am still going to do it. I fell behind just setting up this episode. I just put so much work into like prepping for these episodes, and so that fell by the wayside. As soon as we're done off stream here, I'm going to start drawing my tiny chamber piece, and I'll throw it up on the screen in the edit.
In fact, here it is right here.
Yeah. Oh, Colin. So, Colin, you don't have yours ready either?
No, it's of chamber though. So there it is.
There it is. Wow. Woo, wow. Ooh,
Much chamber, much energy.
And Taylor, what do you got going on?
Me, I did some pennants.
Oh, so good.
That's a beauty.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With her in the danger
really
grotto.
cool.
Yeah, I was trying to play around with if she's all red, what's going to pop against it. So trying to utilize what little color theory I learned in school.
Oh, very cool.
Very well done.
You went to school?
Yeah.
Did all that book learning.
Yep, all that book learning. That's what art school's about, book learning.
Louie, what have you been drawing lately?
Well, I actually did a commission for someone this week that was actually perfectly timed to show off on the show. So I don't know if you can see with my video. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you do the reel you posted of working on that.
Is it on your Instagram right now? Because
it is on my Instagram. I did like a process video, and then I'm holding up the thing which maybe mine will record, but yeah, just getting to draw one of my favorite characters. Very fun, really great commission request. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's always the best when they ask you to draw one of your favorites, right?
It is. It does make it much more enjoyable.
Okay. So I have your Instagram. Sorry. Oh, it's the chamber. Oh my God, gorgeous. You got to send me this video so I can like throw it up on.
Oh yeah, I can do.
Yeah. Wow.
Nice. Right on.
Very
Sick.
Cool.
All right. So Louie, what else? What do you got going on right now? I know the Godzilla trade's coming out this month, but what are you currently working on outside of the commissions?
Well, I can't. I'm just starting another comic project, which I can't talk about just yet.
On the air.
Yeah, I can't on the air. I'm happy to tell you if you edit it out. But yeah, that's really exciting. And then Godzilla Skate or Die comes out end of this month, and I'm hoping to do a launch for it at a local place, because the book is set in Australia. It's set in Port Kembla, which is a suburb just near me. It's inspired by a real life skate park that I skate at, and the skate community there. So so I'm just doing a book launch for it down in the community and near the spot that inspired it, which is really exciting.
I was just gonna say the characters then from the book, all those skaters, are they friends of yours, like Sushi and all them?
No, so they're fictional characters. They're inspired by my kids and a lot of their friends and like real life skaters that I see and know. So they're kind of an amalgamation of a lot of different influences, but certainly awesome. Very much inspired by my kids and skaters that make up the kind of local community.
Oh man, you must be the coolest dad at their school.
Not according to my kids.
Oh no.
It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter how cool you are. Your kids, you're always going to be lame to your kids. So I think I've embraced that.
Yeah, that's what I'm always telling. Colin's going to be a dad soon. I'm always telling him this, like, be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should just say that Assorted Crisis Events is in comic shops right now. It's this one, this is the first issue and it already sold out, so there's already a second print being rushed to comic shops. yeah, pick it up. It's basically if Black Mirror, if in the show Black Mirror, time and space was breaking down, it all takes place in the same universe, but they're all individual stories in that universe. Every single issue is its own story, and yeah, you can pick up any issue and understand what's going on. And I think it's pretty neat.
It's great. We all love it. Go buy this book. You will want to be on the ground floor of Assorted Crisis Events.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, definitely. This was great having Louie on. So everybody out there, pick up Godzilla Skate or Die. It is a super fun book.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're all.
Yeah, it was really great. I had a good time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's close it out.
Cool. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.